Welcome to PressThis, the WordPress community podcast featuring exclusive content and interviews with leaders in the WordPress community, covering everything from development to integrating your digital marketing strategy with WordPress. Join host David Vogelpohl of WP Engine and special guests from across the community as they keep you up to speed on the latest advancements in WordPress. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to PressThis, the WordPress community podcast on WMR. This is your host, David Vogelpohl. I support the WordPress community through my role at WP Engine, and I love to bring the best of the community to you here every week on PressThis. As a reminder, you can follow me on Twitter at WPDavidV, and you can subscribe to PressThis on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or download the latest episodes at WMR.fm. In this episode, we're going to be covering our November quarterly Word Around the Campfire segment with our special guest, Anthony Burchell of WP Engine. Anthony, welcome back to PressThis.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We missed you last quarter on Word Around the Campfire. We had Rob Stinson in your place.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back. No offense to Rob. He's cool too.
I'm glad he could hold it down for me.
I know. Rob's a talent though, Anthony. I think he got some competition here, but no, it's good to have Rob on. Glad to have you back. And of course, as always, from twerkmag.io, one of the, if not the most popular WordPress publication, I'd like to welcome back Doc Popular. Doc, how's it going today?
It's going great. I'm so happy to be here, Dave.
Good deal. What's the weather like on the West Coast? You're in San Francisco, right? Is it like
I wanted to talk
cool
about the
day?
weather, and then I'm like, how inane is that? I can't talk about the weather, but it's actually fantastic. We've had rain. We never have, we've had a very dry year, but it's been raining for 2 weeks, and we didn't have any smoke this year. It kind of all blew over us. So in San Francisco, the weather has been kind of the best it's been in maybe 10 years. It's been killer.
Nice. I like it. Talking about the weather is not too bad. I think we should maybe do a whole episode about it, unless you can connect it to WordPress. But maybe we'll figure that out next. All right. Well, we have a lot on the agenda, so we'll go ahead and kick it off. Just a quick roundup of some of the PressThis episodes that stood out for me over this last quarter. One was What's Up with Brian Gardner and his thoughts on the future of WordPress. You can check that out, at PressThis on WMR. The other one that I really enjoyed was Vova Feldman of Freemius. He had a wonderful episode where he talked about the ultimate checklist for starting a plugin or theme business. I've had a few episodes like that this year, different kind of topics around starting a plugin or theme business. Vova has a very informed point of view. Freemius is a platform specifically for plugin and theme businesses to monetize and to kind of operate their business. So he had a really interesting discussion with him. And then another one that really stood out to me was what it takes to keep over 1 million WordPress sites happy and healthy. And joining me for that interview was Liz Ketchum and Cliff Altman with WP Engine. Anthony, Liz and Cliff, they know a little bit about keeping WordPress sites happy, don't they?
Yeah, totally. I worked with Cliff directly. He's definitely going above and beyond for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was a really interesting perspective, being in the trenches of helping all those sites. So it's a really cool episode. All right, well, enough roundup on the PressThis side. Let's go ahead and transition to more broader WordPress news. And I think the biggest news of all in WordPress, I don't think you can turn around without hearing about this, is WordPress 5.9 coming in December 2021. This is the FSE version of WordPress, and I'm just wondering, Anthony, what's the latest on the front around 5.9 and the push to the December release?
Yeah, so the 5.9 will be coming out about mid-December. I think it's the 14th of December. And it will include the full site editing, and users can take advantage of it as soon as it releases. And there will be a new theme 2022 where they can take advantage of this new block-based theme concept.
And that's a big deal. I guess that for those not keeping up with it, FSE is basically the transition to full site editing themes, which fundamentally kind of change a theme almost to being more config focused, I guess, but also really kind of taking a backseat for blocks to play a role in terms of content layout and other aspects of building a WordPress site. Did I describe that well, Anthony? How would
Yeah,
you describe it?
totally. Yeah, I've been having fun with it. It's really cool. Like there's the most immediate thing you're going to notice is you've got this new button. It's going to be on the sidebar that lets you design your site. And when you click this button, it's like a site designer. It will full site editing your site, for lack of a better term. I think we'll get the terms over time.
Nice, exciting. I know we covered it. Excuse me. I know we covered it quite a bit on PressThis, the lead up to, quote Gutenberg, the block editor coming into core. And it's so fun to see it. That was back in 2018. Here we are nearly 3 years later with full site editing finally making it into core. I don't think that was the time frame Matt had on the slides there. And where was that, in Nashville? But it is fun to kind of be part of that process and see it develop. Well, thank you, Anthony. I'm sure we'll have plenty more to talk about with FSE leading into there in December. Now, of course, part of what keeps WordPress cooking and moving along is the contributions of people from the community. And Doc, I know Twerk had a contributor day recently. Could you tell us a little bit about that, how that went down, and what some stories behind some of the contributions that happened there?
Yeah, as you mentioned, WordPress is obviously powered by the community. And a big part of that is getting new contributors involved and kind of constantly trying to get more new contributors, because you're going to be kind of losing people, over the years. And a good way to do that was the contributor days that happened at WordCamps. Those were like the day before a big WordCamp, or sometimes the day after, and it would be like a whole cafeteria filled with tables and like little signs on each table saying like translation or coding or testing or whatever, right? And so if you were interested in contributing and you never did before, you could just go to one of these tables that you were interested in, sit down, and they'd help walk you through it. It was kind of like a hand-holding experience. And just in general, it was a great way to kind of re-energize people, even if they had been contributors, but definitely to bring in those new people. And with the lack of WordCamps, the new contributors has kind of gone down over the past 2 years. So what we wanted to do at Twerk was start to do a virtual contributor day. We called it Contribute to WP. And the goal was to try to get people just to pledge 2 hours of their time to the WordPress project. They could do more if they wanted, but yeah, just take the pledge to do 2 hours. And that was last weekend. And we had 60 participants. So, that should be about 120 hours. I pledged 2 hours. I put in like 7. So, other people might've put in more as well. Wanted to give a huge shout out to Courtney Robertson, who helped a lot of these new people. I was a first-time contributor. And so, I go to the Slack, I went to the training channel, and Courtney Robertson and other folks were there on like day-long Zoom calls where you could just kind of join and say what you were interested in and get pointed to a direction. So I actually contributed subtitling to WordPress.tv. There was a Joe Casabona talk from WordCamps Santa Clarita 2021. So I transcribed that. That was my first time even using that software and going through that process. And I guess, my first, it wasn't like a GitHub, project or anything, but it was my first time kind of volunteering back, as part of something that they had needed, that they, wanted people to contribute to. So it was a lot of fun.
I think that's a great example. I think a lot of people do get hung around, kind of wound around the wheel and like, oh, I don't know code well enough to contribute to core. But there are all these wonderful other ways to contribute. I think, providing, subtitles for videos is a great way to do that. We had Meryl on a few months ago around captioning, Meryl K. Evans, and it was a wonderful episode. And she had all kinds of tips around the best way to caption videos and the need for it. So I think that was a noble contribution myself, Doc. Thank you for that. It was cool to hear about Contribute to WP, the virtual contributor day this year. Hopefully I'll do it next year. It sounds like a lot of fun. Speaking of, I'm going to kind of go back to you, Doc, here on this. You mentioned like there's not a lot of WordCamps happening, but I did hear that like in-person meetups and WordCamps are coming. Is that true?
Yeah, right before this call, WordCamp Birmingham announced, I think February 4th and 5th of 2022, So that might be the very first WordCamp in 2 years. It will be, WordCamp Birmingham. Other than that, we've got WordCamp US is looking for an in-person location for 2022. Now that's going to be later in the year. And usually when they pick a city, they do it 2 years in a row to kind of help with their planning. So they're not just constantly learning new cities. So that's going to be happening, but also WordCamp EU announced that Porto, which was going to be their location 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, WordCamp EU is going to be doing Porto, Portugal, June 2nd through the 4th in 2022. So we had these kind of policies in place for like how and when we'd go back to in-person meetups. And then, if you met those categories and you wanted to do an in-person meetup, you can. And it looks like those are kind of starting to happen. Nothing this year, but 2022, as early as February, might be our first WordCamp.
That's super cool. My birthday is June 1st. I might have to go to Porto to celebrate my birthday. I was supposed to go there before the pandemic, kind of canceled WordCamp EU. So I've been hoping to check that out. So that's cool to hear that there's a path forward for in-person events. Good luck to Birmingham being the first. Sounds really cool. Great. Well, we're going to have more coming up from around the WordPress community, including a WordPress powered content AI we're going to have fun with after the break, but we'll be right back.
Time to plug into a commercial break. Stay tuned for more Press This in just a moment.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Press This, the WordPress community podcast on WMR. We're in the middle of our Word Around the Campfire episode covering news from around the WordPress community. Right before the break, Doc Popular of Torque Mag was telling us about the return of in-person WordPress meetups, a whole new kind of set of rules around how those should operate, and different events starting to plan these in-person venues, and that's pretty cool to hear about. But there's another kind of announcement somewhat recently in the WordPress community from Vito Peleg. He runs, oh man, it was WP Feedback, but I forgot what they renamed it to. WP Feedback, I'm like Googling it right now here. Atarim is the name of the platform, and it's a way to collaborate with like agency clients. But he's kind of known for founding that, if you will. But he created this new essentially WordPress Content AI Bot that will give you content suggestions. And I actually have it pulled up here in my browser, and I thought we could like play around with it and like read out some of the responses to kind of get a feel for the types of information that it generates. So we're going to go with unique value proposition. It gives you a little list of like, do you want me to like give you a unique value proposition piece of content, or a call to action button, a section title? It's pretty deep with the kind of things it can suggest. But we're going to go with the unique value proposition. We're going to pick a random business, and we're going to describe the company. Any business you want. I'm going to pick on Doc first, because I feel like you're going to have the zaniest suggestion, Doc. But
my suggestion has a bunch of holes in it.
Boring. A plumber. What do you got?
Oh, a donut shop. We're opening up a donut shop.
Okay.
A gluten-free donut shop.
Gluten-free donut shop. All right. Let's see what Bertha AI says we should say about our unique value propositions. I have submitted it. You have broken Bertha AI. The tests are, I'm sorry, the suggestions are just awful. It's like test blank screen. Oops, that was not a good one. I'm gonna do one I did ahead of time.
You know why, David? It's because there's no such good thing as a gluten-free donut.
That was it. You basically divided by zero and broke the internet. Like, you just, sorry, Bertha, that was a bad one. I'm gonna go with like our WP engine. So let's just say managed WordPress hosting for businesses. All right, cool. Can't believe you got gluten-free donuts, Doc. That was just awful.
My other suggestion was powdered water.
Oh, powder.
That's perfect.
You're really trying to break it. So we got #1 WordPress hosting in the world as a value proposition, the first and only managed WordPress hosting provider that provide the best hosting environment, the best customer service. It's just really interesting. And I've done these kind of feeds into Bertha AI before, and it gives you such interesting suggestions. And in fact, a lot of the times they're very, very good, like eerily good. Like, how did it know that this was about that? and how to word it really well. But it was really interesting. Anthony, I know you use AI in different contexts and different things you build. I don't know if you've ever dealt with like content generation AIs in any of your builds.
No, and actually, I'm really interested in this. What about the term like virtual reality hot dog stand?
We were just trying to bring this thing. Virtual reality hot dog stand. Okay. I could have also misspelled donut earlier. That might have been the problem. All right, let's see what we got. Oh, this isn't too bad. The best hot dogs in the world. Virtual reality is the new hotness. The hot dog stand is in virtual reality. That one's kind of literal.
The hot dog stand. That's all right.
Yeah. I think my take on these suggestions is kind of like similar to what I've seen in other content AIs, is like there's some really eerie good ones. And if you're looking for like quick, suggestions on getting content on a page, it can be really helpful. But I don't think you're going to be able to, just turn it loose and never have to think about writing again. But I think it's pretty cool.
I think it's like this. Like how many websites have that same kind of layout where there's like a header and you kind of want to just get started. You want an outline to get you started, and like I think that's sort of what it's doing there. It's getting you just that starting phrase to build off of.
Exactly. Kind of like an amped up ipsum lorem in a way, which I think is pretty rad. And I know a lot of people who use AIs like that to really kind of accelerate their content creation, especially when you're like doing lots and lots of content. It's good to have that starting point. So that's cool from Vito. I remember he sent it to me pre-release. He's like, check this out. I'm like, is this really Vito? Is someone like spearfishing me or something? And he's like, no, it's really me. Check it out. It's pretty cool. All right, we'll switch gears. Anthony, we had, I think it was you or somebody else on a few episodes ago to talk about Atlas Content Modeler. I understand there's a new version out of that. Could you tell the audience a little bit about what it is and then what is in the new release?
Yeah, so the Atlas Content Modeler is a solution, an open source solution that we're building to allow people to build content models for headless applications, so headless WordPress. And essentially, the easiest way I could describe this is if you were building out like custom post types and things like that, and fields attached to those, it's kind of cumbersome in the current state, and you need to then think about how you want to expose them through the REST API. And basically, we figured all of that out and how to wrap it into one plugin that you can use to kind of build those models. And the new version that we just released, version 0.9, introduces a more refined version of relationships and the ability to take a content model of one thing and relate it to something else. So the best way that I've been able to describe it is, let's say you have an employee directory and you have a list of different buildings that those employees work within, or maybe departments. The relationships allow you to link them and say, well, this employee is part of these departments, and allows you to sort of link up data so that when you fetch it on your headless application, you get the data you want and any associated data, which are these relationships. So yeah, this just came out, and we're excited for people to start kicking the tires and letting us know how they're using it.
And ACM's like free, right? There's no like there's no pro version. I'm gonna like gate me out of the good stuff. Like
no, we won't do that to you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So ACM can be used anywhere. It's not just on WP Engine. That's kind of the beauty of it. And I think it's fun. Like I get to still focus on open source. It's really cool. And yeah, you can put this on any website and start building your endpoints and your content models.
It kind of made it sound like I didn't like pro plugins, but I actually do love pro plugins. I think they're very healthy for WordPress and like the community that builds products. But it is cool that this one's free. Where can they download it?
You can download it on WordPress.org now. So we released it actually, I think 2 weeks ago on WordPress.org. And yeah, if you just search Atlas Content Modeler, you will find us there. And yeah, you can install straight from the plugin search.
Sweet. What have you like when you have you done test builds with it yourself? Like what kind of things have you built using it?
So yeah, so one of them was a Digimon trading card game. So like an actual card game that's running inside of a JavaScript app that's calling to a custom post type of cards with a bunch of metadata so that you can do like logic based on it. So maybe one card attacks another card, it knows that this card has a certain value of some damage or something like that, and the other side knows how to interpret that. So that's one example. Another one I built recently was a Google Maps integration that that you know Francis Agulto, right?
I don't think I do personally.
Oh,
No.
Francis is an amazing dev, and he's working a lot on the Atlas side of WP Engine, and he built this climber application, and it basically was a Google Maps integrated headless app that put your longitude, latitude of all of these climbing places. So it was like a way for him to manage different or an interactive map that shows you where different climbing resources are. So I made a fork of that and actually built one for the WP Engine office that goes across the world and shows every WP Engine office. And it's really cool to zoom out and see that. And each one you can click on and see the little details. Like, for instance, if you click on the San Antonio one, it lets you know that San Antonio has the best tacos out of all of the offices. So there you go.
So it's flawed from day one then, basically.
No, not at all. Not flawed.
You're
It's
sure?
great data. Yeah.
I think like Austin would have had the better tacos.
No.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I love opening that can.
We talked about the weather and tacos. We're gonna like, should we cover if hot dogs are sandwiches or not?
I think so.
Today
virtual
is
hot dog
National
sandwiches?
Sandwich Day, so I think we can just dive into that.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, that's cool to hear about ACM and the updates. I know that's the 0.9 release. You're not even at one yet. And
Yeah,
then
we'll go
there's-
0.10 next.
There you go. There you go. What was the first version of WordPress was 0.7, right? Not 7.
I don't remember. Man,
yeah.
that's a good one for WordPress trivia.
It is. Mike Little mentioned that here, I think on PressThis or another venue where I'd interviewed him. But yeah, it was B2 Cafe was 0.6 when Michelle stopped updating it. And then when Matt and Mike took it over, they started the version numbering at 0.7 for WordPress. So
nice.
Now you know.
That's cool.
Awesome. Well, we have more to cover, including some really exciting stuff happening in the WordPress community in Africa. But we're going to take our last break, and we'll be right back.
Time to plug into a commercial break. Stay tuned for more Press This in just a moment.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Press This, the WordPress community podcast on WMR. This is your host, David Vogelpohl. We're in the middle of our Word Around the Campfire episode. Right before the break, we were talking about the latest update to the Atlas Content Modeler, available on WordPress.org, an plugin basically to enable headless sites and headless building. Pretty cool to hear Anthony give us a rundown of changes happening there. The next item I wanted to cover from news around the WordPress community is Mary Jobe. Mary was a guest on PressThis not long ago, where we interviewed her about an organization and she founded and runs in Nigeria, focused on helping teenagers and women learn technical skills, learn how to build with WordPress, and learn other skills to help them develop and grow in their own careers. It's pretty cool to hear Mary talk about that. But she's been up to a lot more than that. She'll be working on launching wpafrica.org, which will have a focus on supporting really everyone in the WordPress community in Africa, everyone from developers to people that, own businesses and run on WordPress, designers, bloggers, really everyone within the WordPress community. On the site, wpafrica.org, it states, and this was something that Mary had mentioned to me, I think actually after our interview, like when we round down the recording, she was like, oh, let me tell you about this. Maybe it was in it, I don't even remember. But they're really trying to push to get a WordCamp Africa in the near future. And on the website, she says perhaps in 3 to 5 years, maybe get that a little sooner. That would be super, super cool to go to WordCamp Africa. So I'm just curious, Doc, had you heard about Mary's activities there with wpafrica.org?
No, I'm definitely out of touch with that scene. But I've been checking out the website and it looks great. It looks like a very active scene. I'm assuming there are meetings in Nairobi and quite a few other places. And yeah, it looks like a big community that's coming together, hopefully to do WordCamp Africa, like you said. That'd be great.
Yeah, and Mary's got a history of that. The org that I mentioned earlier, the way that she started it was that this I don't know, the landlord had an extra room they weren't using. And she's like, you know what we could do with that room is we could get people in there and teach them these skills. And they were like, okay, fine. And like, and then she did it, but it was like this just moment of an empty room in front of her. And I think that's such a tell for Mary, you know, to see the opportunity in something that's not there yet. And I really, I have big money on Mary to pull off WordCamp Africa, and certainly look forward to be able to support her in that effort along the way. But I thought that was really cool. And she was a recent guest. I really enjoyed her interview. It was really interesting to learn about that. And also thanks to Mary, if you're listening, for staying up late for that interview. I know it was an odd time for her. All right, next up, Doc. I heard Hero Press is up to some stuff. What's going on over at Hero Press?
Hero Press are always being cool. This time they put on their masks and capes and they made finditwp.com. This is basically, I think this is their attempt to just kind of pool everything together. If you want a place, you just go into a search bar and you type in hosting, or you type in a plugin, or you type in a live stream, or whatever different thing. They wanted to put them all together. There's certainly places to go and look for plugins, and there's places to look for podcasts. But this is just kind of a resource where you could just kind of type in any keyword and find it in the WordPress space. So finditwp.com is their new project.
Well, that's pretty cool. I guess I did see that come out. A few folks were tweeting about it. It's kind of neat that they're kind of aggregating everything together. I know I end up using Google, of course, for things, and then I just add like WordPress or WordPress.org to try to dial in on the thing related to WordPress, because a lot of brands will kind of overlap in different industries, if you will. But that's pretty cool that they put that together. I can't imagine that's going to be easy to keep that index going, though. That seems like a lot of work, but they seem to have a lot of different things in each category, or at least it's a decent amount of each of them.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious myself. I just typed in, for instance, YouTube channels, and Torque isn't listed. So now I'm like, how do we get listed? So definitely probably something, if you have a company, you probably want to go and add yourself to their database, or make sure you're in there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that, Doc. Really appreciate it. And thank you for joining us today, Doc.
Oh, thank you. This is a lot of fun. I'm going to go eat some gluten-free donuts now.
I love it. Anthony, thank you for joining.
Yeah, I'm off to eat a virtual hot dog. Thanks for having me.
Sweet. I love it. So gluten-free donuts and virtual hot dogs sounds like the meal of champions. So awesome. Thanks everyone else for listening. If you'd like to check out more about what's happening with WordPress news, please visit torquemag.io. Again, this has been your host, David Vogelpohl. I support the WordPress community through my role at WP Engine, and I love to bring the best of the community to you here every week on PressThis.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of webmasterradio.fm's management or sponsors. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without authorized consent of webmasterradio.fm is prohibited.